It's been 4 years since Michael Myers' second reign of terror, and it seems that Laurie Strode has actively made a chance to improve her life. She's sobered up, she's taken her granddaughter Allison under her wings, she's moved back into town, into a new home, and set up a new stable life for herself. She's even reached out to a new town pariah, one Corey Cunningham. 1 year after the events of the first two movies, Corey was babysitting a young boy named Jeremy, and inadvertently wound up causing the child's death after a bizarre series of circumstances. He's carried that badge of dishonor ever since, and once more it seems the whole town has just turned him into a monster. However, as Corey and Allison begin to grow closer and start a romance, Laurie can't help but notice a change in the young man, a darkness growing within him, a similar darkness to that of Michael Myers. Soon more dead bodies begin to turn up, and more suspicion is cast upon Corey, Michael Myers, and just everything. Halloween may end, but the evil will always live on. This is Halloween Ends. Okay, so yeah, this is actually going to be a really hard movie to talk about without mega spoiling it. I mean, I'm going to try to avoid some of the serious parts, but one of the big ones is, yeah, just completely unavoidable. I can't talk about it without just talking about it. So, yeah, skip to about this point on the screen, and I'll try to sum up my overall thoughts at that point. Okay, okay. So, yeah, basically what happened is, again, the first two films took place all in the same night. If you recall, at the end of the last movie, Michael Myers killed Allison's mother, Laurie's daughter, Judy Greer's character, and then it looked like he was just staying up in the room of the Myers house, but then he just sort of vanished, and they don't know exactly what happened to him. And every so often a new dead body would turn up, and they're like, is this Michael Myers? Is this the copycat? I mean, at one point you see excuse me, you see two dead bodies who have been shot, and it's like, well, this couldn't be Michael Myers, he doesn't shoot people. And so, and this is sort of coupled with the idea that Haddonfield is just kind of going to crap. Like, the town doesn't trust each other anymore. They've all, like, completely, outside of a few people, they've all completely turned against the Strodes, or like, you can't just let this go. You got, dwelling on it. Maybe that's why he came back here. Maybe that's why, we can never shake this because of everything that you've done. You could have just moved out of town, and, maybe the evil would have gone away. But still, it's like, there's a bit of that. There's also, other things like, Allison is now working as a nurse at the hospital, and, she's up for a promotion, but she gets passed over for the one really annoying nurse who's actually stripping the chief of staff. And then we get to Corey, who, like I said, he's a bit older. He was 21. He was 20 when the first two movies happened. The year after that, with his incident, he was 21. He was supposed to be an engineering student. He was also a part-time gardener for this family, and they called him to be an emergency babysitter. They said that their kid had been traumatized by the story of Michael Myers, so no scary stuff, but they still watched John Carpenter's The Thing. And at this point, the kid's like, no, that's garbage. I don't do any of that stuff. He's like, well, okay, and the kid just starts kind of cocking off to him a little bit, and at one point he gets up to get some chocolate milk or something, and the kid's just vanished. Looks like he's been abducted. Someone broke in. He's looking, and he gets trapped in the attic because the kid's playing a prank on him. And just as the parents are arriving, so the kid goes up to the door to unlock it, and right at that point, he kicks the door and knocks the kid over the railing, and the kid falls to his death. And so you get that kind of traumatic bit, and you get the fact that now the town has turned him into this ultimate pariah as well, where it's like, he wasn't charged with anything because, as much as the parents may not like him, as much as everyone may hate, it was clearly an accident because, the way even everyone kind of, I think evidence would have just pointed to, yeah, that's what happened. Like, And, when he meets up, after he gets beat up by a group of high schoolers who, not only that, like cut his hand, Laurie comes to his aid and takes him to the hospital where he sees Allison, and the two kind of immediately feel some spark of attraction. And, as they grow closer, he sort of talks about, like, man, there are times I just want to burn this town down. And, they're like, why not just leave? Like, why do we keep staying here? And, that's where they sort of click and bond on a lot. The idea that, this whole town just seems to hate them. So why are they always here? And from there, but then, again, just as things start to click again, those teenagers come back, they beat him up again, they dump him over a bridge, and it's here where he encounters Michael Myers, who somehow, at this point, like, he gets grabbed, they're choking him, and they have, like, some sort of weird spiritual transference, and that's kind of what happens. And actually, throughout much of this movie, Corey is the actual killer, not Michael Myers. Like, they actually work together in a few circumstances. So yeah, that's kind of the really big spoiler there. And like I said, this movie takes a weird kind of slow burn turn to it. It's more of a thoughtful character exercise than it's, say, an out-and-out horror movie. It's not your standard slasher. It's not, there's not too much in the way of blood and guts. There's not too much in the, there's a little bit of sexiness, but not that much. Even the teenagers in question, like, they're just, four really douchey teenagers. They're just, not really too consequential there at all. So, then, that is an interesting exercise. Like I said, it is an interesting idea. I do like the idea of Laurie trying to straighten out her life, trying to straighten out Allison's life, even though she's kind of, wavering too and losing her temper a lot. The idea of how the trauma affects you as being the interesting point in all of this. But if you're tuning in to see a Michael Myers Halloween movie, you're gonna be kind of disappointed, unfortunately. Like, there's just none of that. And like I said, this is a very slow burn, so there's kind of a lot of not much really happens. And you're just kind of sitting there like, okay, something's going to happen soon, something's going to happen soon. And, it does eventually all boil over, conveniently enough, on Halloween, even though we had a Halloween party like 4 days before Halloween, but whatever. And that's just kind of how, this thing takes some very weird turns. Like, it's not bad. I'd say, again, the performances are fine. It's an interesting enough story. I don't think the overall execution worked. Like, there's no real tension or fear in any of this, really. It's just more of a, okay, we're watching a slow descent of a character who may have already been kind of iffy, but, like, he did a terrible thing, but he didn't mean to do a terrible thing, and now he's, ruined his life. So you get a bit of an empathetic feel to it, but then, you see as it slowly starts to pull him further and further in the darkness. And that, like I said, that could be interesting, but there's no tension to it. It's just like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. Okay, well, this is what's going to happen. There's no shocking twist or revelations. And it's just very kind of paint by numbers in certain ways. So, yeah, it is very, unfortunately, kind of bogged down by that. I guess I would say it's a closure, but, they're probably going to reboot this thing again in 5 years anyway. Excuse me, just without Jamie Lee Curtis. And, so, yeah, like, again, it's not terrible, it's not disappointing, it's just, it's kind of blah, and it aspires to something, but it falls just a little too short, unfortunately, and because of it kind of crashes with a bit of a thud. It's not terrible, it's not a total waste of your time. I'm going to give Halloween Ends a C. It's just very average, at least in my opinion. Like, certain parts worked, certain parts really did well, but overall it just kind of putters along until, the big climactic scene at the end. Like, even the pictures I've been showing you, I can't, are not exactly accurate representations of this movie. Like, again, if you went into this expecting the big climactic final battle between Laurie and Michael, yeah, you're going to be in for a wait. I will say this, the movie is an hour and 50 minutes long, and it goes by at a pretty brisk pace. Like, it's not really bogged down that much. The pacing is fine. It's just the story itself is not particularly interesting.
How would you explain it? A woman in Wisconsin is doing the dishes when suddenly she's possessed by a terrifying feeling. She's positive that her young daughter has just been in an accident. She quickly makes a desperate phone call, only to learn that her feeling was true. How would you explain this? A dozen people around the world who never met each other describe an encounter with a being from space, and their descriptions of the creature match almost exactly. And how do you explain this? A man's heart stops beating in a hospital, and he sees a blinding light that doesn't frighten him, but fills him with an indescribable feeling of peace. And how can you explain the growing number of people who feel that they've had a brush with something beyond our everyday understanding? Maybe no one can fully explain these things, but they can no longer be ignored. That's why Time Life takes a serious look into this world with a remarkable new series, Mysteries of the Unknown, to provide an objective and comprehensive look at what may lie beyond our ordinary reality. How can you explain this? Four men are drawn to an ancient Anglo-Saxon fort, site of a fierce battle. They enter the shadows of a ring of trees, and without warning, one of them is grabbed by an unseen force, lifted 5 feet in the air, and suspended for 30 full seconds. There are so many hints of a world more remarkable than we ever imagined, and of abilities that we barely suspect.
Mommy, all I could think of was you.
I know.
Send for your first volume on a free trial basis, and see if you can explain these things away.
To order your first book, Mystic Places, call 1-800-252-8000. Examine it for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $12.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling. Other books will follow, one about every other month. Keep only the ones you want. Cancel anytime. Call 1-800-252-8000.
And here's where I goofed and realized I forgot to shoot the little end bit. So basically, again, the next video is probably going to be the Week's End preview. After that, it's going to be the Black Adam recap and review. I don't know when exactly that's going to be up. I'll try to get that up by Friday, but I don't know if it's going to be early Friday or late Friday. I still probably going to be house sitting at that point. And then the next video after that's going to be the random trade review on Leonard McCoy, Frontier Doctor. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember you can request a movie or a television series for me to review at my Patreon at patreon.com/CPTimeForCat Productions. Also, remember to like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be alerted to further videos.